Hello, welcome. Welcome to everyone to the Sangha Live session today. And yeah, really looking forward to exploring this theme that we've been opening this week and keep opening it wider. So I think there's the possibility that this may be the first recorded session of this week due to some kind of technical glitches in the background for whatever reason. The reasons don't particularly matter. The outcome is the only thing that's of significance. So I might take a moment or two just to kind of open the theme because some people might only be hearing this session and the next one. So this week we're getting a feel for feeling and trying to understand the importance and freeing potential of what it means to get to know this quality called vedanā. And vedanā, many ways we could translate it: feeling, feeling tone. I quite like niceness opinion. It's an opinion that lands on experience from the subconscious as it appears into consciousness. It kind of arrives with a feeling is, oh, this is nice, or that's not very nice, or meh, doesn't really matter either way. Yeah. And all of our experiences are like that. And that is a bit of a reactivity projection onto things. And then it leads to further reactivity. If it's nice, maybe I should get more of it. Where did it, how can I get more for me? If it's not nice, why am I having this? I don't want it, trying, rejecting, and getting rid of. And that whole process unfolds. And typically we would say that is dukkha. Okay, so that's what we're opening to. That's what we're exploring. So far, those of you who've been to the earlier sessions will know that we practiced with just an equanimity of just noticing that opening, softening, can bring quite a lot of freedom in that way. Second day, we explored different ways of relating to this experience that open out whole avenues of different possibilities. Yesterday, we used it as a way of like noticing what kinds of experiences are arising and as a compass, so to say, to open us to other possibilities, different ways of being, different vedanas to pay attention to, rather than just the negativity bias that often leads and guides where we bring the attention. Okay, so that's by way of background, kind of shared background. Hopefully, we all feel somewhat up to speed, and if not, we can go back, listen to that again and again until it kind of lands clearly. Of course, you can go out and read more about these kinds of aspects of the teachings. It's a well-known and it's a well-praised teaching, vedanā, Vedana. So, by way of introduction, I'm Nathan. I'm tuning in from quite hot Tel Aviv this week. And as always, really lovely to see the welcoming comments in the chat. And if you haven't already, really feel invited to say hello. You're already part of the community, part of the Sangha, but if you want to kind of name that, feel some responses, and the kindness and the care that comes both ways. So I'm going to give a reflection on this practice, and we are going to take this. Maybe it's a bit of a step change. So we'll see. Hopefully, I can make it make sense for you. If it's not making sense, we'll bring it into the meditation. Hopefully, by then it'll kind of land, and we'll see. Wow, yes, I get it, and hopefully, yes, that's useful. That's a helpful way of seeing this. So I'm going to say some things, they might feel a little bit complex. These teachings can get complex. One has to remember that the Buddha hesitated from teaching before teaching this, because he was like, is anyone going to get this? It's a bit complex, it's a bit subtle, but I feel we're going to get this. We're going to get enough of it, at least, that we can open another kind of freedom. And if there are questions in the field remaining after the reflection and the meditation, use the chat, let us know. And even while I'm explaining, if you feel like you're getting lost, just say, I don't get that, because maybe it's referring to something that I thought that you knew about. And if you don't, I'd much rather go back over, spend a little bit more time, and make it all very clear. Okay. The vedanā means a niceness opinion about an object in attention. This feels nice, not nice, neither. That happens very automatically. We're not trying to get rid of that per se, but we're trying to relate to it skillfully. So the Buddha would often say, I teach one thing, freedom from dukkha. And then teaching, what is dukkha? Dukkha is the experience of stress, of suffering, of unsatisfactory states. And then they would teach how it comes about. They would teach that it can be dissolved, and they would teach how to do that. And that we see in the Four Noble Truths with the teaching. Yeah. Another way that this was expressed by the Buddha was what, when I do it, will lead to my long-term well-being and happiness. What, when I do it, will lead to my long-term well-being and happiness. And equally, we could reflect on what, when I do it, actually doesn't do that, doesn't lead to my long-term well-being and happiness. My reactivity, my greediness, my unskillfulness, my expressions of selfishness, all of those kinds of things. Oh, they don't lead to my long-term well-being and happiness. But what, when I do it, what does do that? And it's a really good question for us to have in our life and align our life with its ethics, with its wisdom, and with its well-being. So I want to give a short story. Sometimes I would open this up as like a quiz, you know, it's like, give me your answers where you think it is. And it's a question of like, where does maximum happiness happen? And one time there was an experiment done where people wore those anodes on their heads, I think that's what they're called, that measure the excitation of the skin so that they could see, well, when do people experience maximum excitement as a proxy for happiness in a shopping environment? Yeah, so they give them a loaded credit card that's got plenty of cash in it that they can buy things with, and they go into the shops and they see things that they like. Is that where maximum happiness happens? I like that. The vedanā arises. I want it. It fits me. Was that the maximum happiness? Yes, I could get this. Where they discover the maximum happiness seems to be coming is in that moment of exchange before you buy it. You're kind of handing over at the cashier, getting and exchanging cash for product. After that, happiness dips back down. Yeah, goes back down to kind of base level experiences. This aligns with this Four Noble Truths. Yeah, the dukkha is there, and then what else is there? Well, there's this demanding for things. Well, the demand drops away when we get what we wanted, and maximum happiness is released. And after that, it kind of disappears, and then we go and seek more things. Well, I need to get another thing to go with this new thing that I've just bought, you know, and the demands re-arise, we're back into the dukkha, and then we get it, and then the demand drops away. And often we project onto things. It was the getting of that thing that brought me my happiness. Yeah. And that could be the same in relationships, and it can be the same in roles that we have, and it could be all kinds of objects give rise to that. The teaching is saying, actually, it's the demand that's blocking that. It's the demand that was blocking the happiness. If you dropped the demand, regardless of the thing, you would actually release the happiness. And we could ask this question, if we go into a shop and, you know, we take something off the thing and we see that it fits us and whatever, we feel this wave of happiness, of relief, of release of the demand. Where did the happiness come from? Like, it wasn't in the cloth. There's not, you know, happiness being threaded into objects. Yeah. And if it comes from a role or responsibility or whatever, it's like we understand that the happiness was blocked and the demand was blocking it. And when that demand is released, the happiness flows out through us. Yeah. So that's quite a subtle, quite a deep teaching, but it's basically a way of saying, you know, happiness comes from within, which is a saying that we already have, and we can adopt that and see it playing out through the experience. So we can bring this in as a teaching around Vedanas. Why? Well, because Vedanas suggest that the satisfaction is in things. This thing is nice. This thing is not nice. This thing is neither nice nor not. Yeah. So when the Buddha says, what when I do it will lead to my long-term well-being and happiness, perhaps the it that we can do is to quite thoroughly disbelieve the Vedana. And I hope that we feel interested in doing this for a couple of reasons. One is because the demanding demands a belief in the Vedana. Yeah, I've got to get this because it is pleasant. It's going to make me happy. I've got to get rid of this because it's unpleasant. It's going to make me unhappy. Yeah. So disbelief probably aligns with freedom. And again, not again, but maybe for the first time, and a really important point, this is a meditation practice. I'm not telling you how to live your life and say, well, I will never shop again because nothing contains satisfaction. I'll never do anything anyway. I'll never try and get any roles and relationships and whatever. But as a meditation practice, does this open up a certain amount of freedom for us? Yeah, so two camps of our life, the meditation and the rest of our life. It may be that they transfer across. It may be that they don't, but it's still perhaps very useful in developing the wisdom, the insight, the understanding, and the well-being here in our practice. The second reason we might hopefully feel that this is worth doing would be reliant on practicing already. When we change the way of relating, change the atmosphere, then we notice that the Vedana changes. When we decide to pay attention to different aspects of our experience, the whole body feels stressed. Does it? Does the little finger feel stressed? Does the bottom of the chin feel stressed? Do the earlobes feel stressed? It's like, it's actually a bit more complicated than that. There is some stress, and it's here, and it's dependent on the way that I'm relating to it. So hopefully we're starting to disbelieve the Vedanas just naturally as a natural progression through the teaching. So the Buddha is teaching freedom from dukkha. And I mentioned one of the words that's used for that, unsatisfactory. And the Buddha would say, all phenomena are inconstant. They are anicca, Pali. All phenomena are unsatisfactory. They are dukkha. All phenomena, anything that appears, has that nature. And all things are not themselves. They are anatta, not themselves. Right now, they are empty of being this way or that. They're more flexible, more fluid than they seem. And so are Vedanas. Yeah, Vedanas are not themselves. We can disbelieve, we can see through this. Coming back to this phrase, all phenomena are unsatisfactory. To our ears and also to our dictionaries, this sounds like dissatisfying. They are dissatisfying. And actually, just to ride the etymology train for a moment and find some freedom along it. Dissatisfaction, like distraction, is the pulling apart from. Satisfactory would mean enoughness, satis, and factory, like a factory, that which makes enoughness. And that's what the Vedana projects. Like, this will make you enough. This will stop you from being enough. Yeah. But unsatisfactory means does not contain satisfaction. It neither is nor is not satisfying, really, right? But the projection position of all Vedanas is this object, this thing, this position, this role, this thing coming through the senses. This really is nice, not nice, neither nice nor not nice. So we really should inquire into this, because it's encouraging us to look in the wrong places for a happiness that is available to us. Does not contain really, as a meditation lens. I've used this example before, but it maybe carries the point quite well. I was in India one time drinking a fruit juice, and I noticed that it said on the bottle, does not contain fruit. I was drinking it, it tasted of mango. I was experiencing mangoes. I was feeling like I was absorbing mangoes. And here I'm looking at this bottle. It does not contain fruit. It's empty of fruit. This phenomena, I'm seeing it this way. Vedanas are telling me this contains fruit. Vedanas are telling me this is nice. This would be nice. Get it. And what I turn around and say, this does not contain the satisfaction. Happiness comes from within. But that doesn't make it dissatisfying, and it doesn't make it meaningless, nor unworthy of getting. It doesn't make it worthy of getting either. So when we do it, what when I do it will lead to my well-being and lasting satisfaction is actually an upgrade into well-being. Step back from the demand even earlier in the process than we normally do. Okay, a lot there, and it is not just a teaching, it's a practice. So if you're willing to do it, we can bring it into our meditations today. Yeah, it won't hopefully feel complicated, but we are just going to say this does not contain satisfaction nor dissatisfaction. Another way of saying it shorter is this is unsatisfactory. But you have to remember that is not to say this is dissatisfactory. Yeah, this is unsatisfactory. So please make yourself comfortable and we will begin. Have half an hour of quiet practice with a few reminders coming through. So finding yourself in this body sensory moment, encouraging a sense of letting the face relax as much as it can. Whatever remains, remains. Checking in with the heart area with kindness, spaciousness. Settle into a kind of gentle opening as much as is possible right now. Noticing the activity of the mind, noticing how softening the belly, releasing the hand. The support is slowing of the rush and urgency that we often feel. From here, meeting whatever is your favorite meditation object. It could be the flow of a nice breath. It could be a wide open listening to the field of sound or anything else. Just give you some time to settle the attention with interest and spaciousness. Noticing where we are. No blame, no judgment. Minds are meant to wander. What we notice is this peaceful, satisfying. Could it be a more easy experience if we release the demand on this moment being other than this? Demand be released. Maybe we can see that it's aligned with a tension, maybe a contraction in the face or the belly. The attention wider to the whole body, or if we're with the sound, wider into the horizon of the sound, hearing, awareness. That more spacious way, less feeling of demand comes along, less dukkha, less stress. Using the object of the breath or the sound, whatever else, as a way of guiding us. Stay steady, stay with, stay intimate with life. In the background, just checking that we're not getting tight, getting rigid. It can be often a sign of the demands building up. Noticing this experience. Notice it has a vedanā. It either feels nice or some way maybe it feels not nice. Notice, we want more of it. Would we rather not be in this experience? Had enough of it. The reaction to life can be a way of noticing the vedanā. The way of relating defines whether this is dukkha or not for us. Whether this is hard to be with. What happens when we bring in a sense of kindness, non-rejection, not greed for more, not aversion for less, not love, kindness for this, a softening and an opening, and then a tightening and repelling. Noticing what you notice. What is it now? Or if there's tightness, we can invite a softening. If there's contractedness, narrowness, we could invite widening. As we do this, you may notice we begin to release the demand on life being otherwise. We also release the demand on being elsewhere. There may be, in our experience, somewhere that feels okay, where we could rest the attention. Maybe the little finger, the earlobes, as we explored yesterday. Express a sense of non-demand. And noticing when we drop the demand, either through contraction, release, through upgrading from greed and aversion into kindness, care. We get a certain satisfaction, the release of the demand for satisfaction. Perhaps the demand was in the way. As the teachings express. It would be impossible to demand on things to bring us lasting satisfaction. If we understood they do not contain dissatisfaction or satisfaction from their own side. Is it in this moment to regard this phenomena as does not contain dissatisfaction, does not contain satisfaction on its own side. Think of this more as something that may be useful than true. This does not contain satisfaction, nor dissatisfaction. Unsatisfactory. Rushing, but maybe applying this phrase to anything that sticks in attention for a while. does not contain dissatisfaction or satisfaction from its own side, and the demanding on it to provide it blocks. It's what's in attention. Notice that there's probably a subtle or obvious projection onto this, that it contains satisfaction, bring happiness or distress from its own side. And how is it to, with a gentle conviction, declare it does not, and quite profoundly release the demand that it should. And be open out a more lasting happiness and well-being, free from demand, more and more. I invite you, if you're enjoying yourself, to continue playing with this way of regarding phenomena as not containing the satisfaction that we demand. See what that opens up. And equally, if that's enough of that for now, recognizing what the inner condition feels like. Seeing if we can sustain it through the transition from this more formal way of practice, more community engaging, words-based part of our exploration. As we come into the time for any questions and reflections from you. So hopefully there's some sense that, we took a little path, a rather short and direct path through these teachings, that the Buddha is saying in life there is dukkha, stress, suffering, unsatisfactory states, and they come about because of the amount of demanding. Sometimes people use the word craving. I prefer the word demanding because it's a word we use in everyday language. Craving seems to only exist in a subset of experiences. And the Buddha is saying it can be dissolved, this state of dukkha, and it's dissolved by reducing the demanding. The demanding is dependent on what we demand, and it's typically around something which has a vedanā. We demand to feel better, and we demand to go about it through believing that the vedanā describes accurately the nature of things, that they contain happiness making, they contain distress making from their own side. And we've explored over the days, and we've explored in this meditation, that our way of relating to things is actually even more potent than what those things themselves could have inherently contained. And yet they never did. They didn't actually contain the satisfaction from their own side. If they did, then something that appears to bring me satisfaction, like a spoon of ice cream, would maximize that satisfaction as I ate more and more of the tub. But it doesn't happen that way. It starts to make me feel sick, and it actually becomes less and less satisfying until it eventually changes its vedanā from pleasant to unpleasant. And I never want to see ice cream ever again. Yeah. We know that it is not inherent in the phenomena. When we drop the demand by seeing through this as clearly as we can, demands have nothing to stand on. They do not make sense in the prior way, and certain times, to certain depths, a more profound well-being comes through. This is often described as a path of peace. The peacefulness is much deeper than the coming and going excitement of getting what we want. And that is a deeper and longer lasting happiness for us. You notice in this phrase from the Buddha, what, when I do it, will lead to my long-term well-being and happiness. Long-term well-being and happiness in a world of incredible transience. Something that I do, something that I practice, something that I enact. Yeah. So I hope that that lands reasonably well, and it's interesting to reflect upon. And if you want to hear more about that kind of thing, I've spoken about this in greater depth. There's always so much more to say about this. A lot of my teachings around this are on Dharma Seed, and if you look me up, you look up, Unsatisfactory or something like that, you can find a lot more about that. Okay. So, yeah, if there are any questions about that, feel free to put them into the chat. I think maybe there are some questions among that, and maybe I can refer to that in a moment. As always, these sessions freely offered. If you're in a place and a position to be able to offer support to keep these going, it's greatly appreciated. The link to that will magically appear in the chat in a moment. So there's kind of a question around this question of preferences. I would say another, kind of colloquial phrase that we could have for the typical Vedanas that arise for us are like our preferences. Yeah. It doesn't quite do justice to the term because it's not quite there, but it's an interesting element to notice. I have a preference for this, which means that I've projected a certain kind of Vedana onto that type of experience, and then I tend to demand for it. And yeah, the demand craving type of thing, just find the word that makes the most sense for you. People have often gotten familiar with craving, as they have with many other teachings points. But yeah, craving is any sustained demand for experience to be this way or that way. Yeah, but I don't find that it's a very everyday experience. So, great. So Maddie has a question. Can you explain phenomena? So phenomena is a English word that has arisen for us from the Greek, and basically it means an appearance. An appearance. So anything that appears in consciousness, which is all that we have, is actually an appearance of that thing. There are many ways that we could approach this and actually dive, very deeply into actually what is a perception. A perception is how that phenomena is appearing amongst all the other phenomenon of the phenomenon of experience are all phenomena. Yes. So what we perceive are phenomena, and those are appearances. And that word phenomena is helpful, and that word appearances is helpful because it actually encourages, I hope, to see that the way that they appear is not necessarily the way they really are. Yeah. Okay. So I see there's a lovely looking reflection there, and I'm going to presume that it didn't end in a question, and I'll read it later. There's a question here. From Nicola? What about times when there are conflicting demands and we feel caught between two extremes? Yeah. So many things that we can do in that situation. So when we feel caught between conflicting demands, or we feel caught between two extremes, one thing we can look for is what would the middle way be? And the middle way is not a compromise necessarily, but it's a stepping out of extremes of view, this or that. And we exist within a world made up of a lot of false dichotomies, and we miss the gradation and the subtleties between those things. Do you want this or do you want that? And it's actually no, neither. I want something more than what both of those offer, and that can be helpful kind of thing to reflect upon. Another way of reflecting on this is actually, this is dukkha. This is unsatisfactory for me. And in that case, we're actually meaning that more, this is hard to bear. Yeah, this is unpleasant. And we can relate to that state from that, from any dimension of these teachings that we've already mentioned. So is the way that I'm relating to this actually demanding the resolution of this and getting me free? Is the condition that I'm seeing it this way actually leading to more reactivity and kind of inflating that I need to solve this so that, I can finally be free and happy, well, and all of that? And what happens if I actually reduce the demand for, getting beyond these conflicting demands? It might actually open that whole thing out, and it might drop out completely from being a problem. Again, it could be that we need to talk this through with someone. Yeah. That, there's these conflicting demands. They both feel very strongly of value, and someone can ask the right questions for us very specifically in relationship to that circumstance. It's like, well, what do you want from this? What is it you're seeking? Then maybe we find those ways to open out and explore this. Okay, there's another question here from Hannah. Let's see if we've got time to respond to this one. When I walk into a quiet, calm space, this elicits a sense of calm and relaxation. This happens with each experience of calm, quiet space that a cluttered, busy space rarely does. Unlike your ice cream example, the more I experience such a space, the more I experience well-being. How might I relate this to a demanding desire towards this quiet calm when it is not possible for me to attain at this time? Yeah, thank you. So in a sense, the calm, quiet space, and I don't know if you're talking about an inner or an outer one. I'm kind of sensing you're talking about an inner one. They can be very refined. And part of their nature is that they actually have a subtler vedanā. So the pleasantness of them is kind of less loud, right? So part of our experience is that when dukkha is loud, demand is loud, and the vedanā projection seems very vivid and loud, yes? Like that, I want another spoon of this ice cream. Gets quite loud, and then we demand it, we get it, and we usually suffer after a while. I mean, some people don't agree with ice cream causing suffering, but that's an aside. The interesting thing there is that the vedanā has moved more towards the middle space. It's moved more towards the neither nor, but the kindness, natural kindness in our attention has started to open out and expand and delight, and the calm and the quiet actually starts to develop, and it's so incredibly soothing and creates a lot of well-being for us. And so in a sense, those are the kinds of experiences to aim for without demand, of course, because the demanding, the desiring is actually an agitation that removes the calm and the quiet from that space. So it's this path that we've been exploring today that hopefully, and for some of us, it's sensed from the comments, has opened up a calm and a quiet space beyond things. Calm and quiet space beyond things when we lessen that demand, less rigid with that fixation, and we open out those deeper possibilities of what's available to us. And yeah, we have another session to come, and there's more to open out and tune into, and I hope that you'll be there and able to be with us for that. So wish you well. See you soon. Take care.